Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, shout profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome once again to another episode of the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Emily. Welcome back, everybody. It is a time that we are having together as family, podcast family.
As listeners and tellers of this here podcast.
Exactly. I am feeling a little silly today, a little silly goofy. It might be because I'm overtired, but what else is new?
And it's dark outside, you know?
Yeah, well, it's true. It's true. Almost time for bed, but not quite there yet. Instead, I must struggle with my existence for a time yet. But that is okay, because we're doing it together.
It's true. It's true. But yeah, I don't really have anything that special to share. I'm trying to think. I do want to hear about that book that you're reading.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I picked up, well, not really picked up. I was reading a Monster Fucker series, which is exactly what it sounds like. Sorry, listeners.
Yeah.
And this is like book 7 or something, but they're all like really short and like kind of palatable. And the one I'm reading, I didn't really look up like what the trope is supposed to be, because of course like people pick books like for specific tropes, especially if they're romance books. And this one that I'm reading is supposed to be like a girl who's like a witch. So she's human, but she's in an arranged marriage with a gargoyle, and the gargoyle is a mafia boss. But like before the wedding happens, she like gets like a love confession from like her best guy friend that she's been working with for a long time, who is a demon, and so she's like all conflicted, and then she marries this gargoyle mafia boss. And then there was this scene that happened because, like I just said, I did not look up to see what kind of trope this book was, so I did not know what I was getting into. And basically this like gargoyle mafia boss is getting all like jealous because his like wife, because they just were in this arranged marriage that he knows nothing about, called her like demon boy best friend for help on something. And so the demon boy best friend showed up, and then he was like, "What are you doing here standing next to my woman?" and like goes to choke him out. And then it's from the scene, like the scene or the chapter is written from the perspective of the demon boy best friend. And there was this whole thing where he was like he was like holding me up in the air by my neck, and I had the horrific realization that I was really into this, and I was like, oh my god! And then it's like, and as I'm looking into the gargoyle's eyes, I realize in horror that his eyes have shifted from anger to lust, and I was like, ah! So it's cooking, guys. It's getting juicy. But what I told Jenny though about this book I was reading, the only thing I mentioned is that there was a surprise cuck, and there was. Are we mad about it? No, but it was not at all what I was expecting.
Honestly, what a slay. I love when you read these crazy books and tell me about them. Honestly, like I feel like I'm reading them too.
I love talking about them because it gives me the same kind of thrill as having juicy gossip.
Yes, that's what it is.
Right?
It like feels like you're like telling me about, you know, someone that we both mutually know, and you're like, and then they did this crazy thing, and I'm like, oh.
I know. It like, literally, me telling you this right now feeds me the same way as if I just told you about somebody that we know who, like, what ended up being a cuck for somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, it's so thrilling.
It's true.
It feeds me. It gives me energy. I'm obsessed with it.
But because I don't actually know them, I'm less grossed out.
It's true. I've been really trying to get Jen onto reading some of the the crazier books that I read because they are fun. And I feel like that's going to be my trick for getting back into reading, I've decided, is to pick up more shorter, crazy books because then it feels more like a treat.
Yeah. Like, you can sit down and, like, read it in, like, an hour or two.
Right? And then, yeah, I feel like, well, you're in the swing of filming season now, right? So you're probably just busy 24/7.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time for hobbies at the moment. There's barely enough time for life at the moment, but we're making it through. We're here today, and that's what matters.
You can live vicariously through me because
exactly.
I haven't read much past this one scene because I just was losing my mind at like 3 a.m, and I don't know what else is going to happen because I honest to God thought it was just going to be like a regular arranged marriage trope book where it's like there's like some angst and they hate each other and then they end up eventually liking each other and then it's like, oh my God, we're already married, what are we gonna do? And they have to like renew their vows or something. I feel like I've read that before, so that's what I was expecting. I did not expect a surprise cuck, but I'm here for it. And now you're here for it too, and we're all going on this journey together.
What a delightful surprise.
What a little treat. Oh God. All right, should we get into our wheel of questions?
Yes, let's spin.
Number 3.
Ooh, okay, this is a fun one.
Okay.
So, this one is a little bit more of a game than it is a question.
A game?
Yes.
I love games.
So, I'm going to get you to tell me 2 truths and a lie, and I'm going to see. I know you very well, so I'm going to see if I can figure out which is the lie.
Oh no.
And then I'm going to tell you 2 truths.
So hard.
And a lie, and then vice versa.
You know everything about me. Oh my God. 2 truths and a lie.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to climb back into my brain from before I met you.
Oh my God. That's like middle school.
I know. It's before middle school, bro. It's elementary school.
Oh, God.
Okay. I feel like you're going to be able to know right away that this is which one is my lie and which one are my truths, but I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, I'm ready.
Here we go. My first time in the emergency room was when I split my ear open. That I was a tap dancer in elementary school, and that I swallowed a rock just to see what would happen.
You were not a tap dancer.
I was a tap dancer.
Fuck! Was it the rock thing?
Can you guess which one is the lie then?
The rock thing?
No. My first time in the hospital was actually when I bit my tongue open.
Oh, it was your tongue. I thought it was your ear.
Nope. Ear was grade 4. Tongue was when I was 3.
Oh,
Gotcha!
damn it.
Gotcha! This is why I wanted to write it down. I was really cooking there.
Okay, here's mine.
Okay.
Me and my older sister nearly got into a fist fight about socks when we were younger.
Okay.
I had a fish named after a girl who I used to hate, and I hated that fish. Or I got a helix piercing last week.
I feel like you're lying about the helix piercing.
Why do you think that?
Because for you to fight over socks with your sister, especially a fist fight, is very on brand for both of you. And I happen to know not just the goldfish's name, because you told me that story before, but you've also showed me a picture of the girl that it was named after.
Damn it! Yeah, you know me too well.
Was I right?
You were right.
Yes! See, I was really torn between the helix piercing, though, and you and your sister. That was the tie for me. I was like, either... Because you guys are also far apart in age. So I was like, I feel like maybe you might have been wearing toddler socks and she was wearing adult socks. So I don't know how you'd fight over that. But then at the same time, I was like, I feel like the details wouldn't matter and that you'd do it anyways, which is why I picked that one.
Nah, I was stealing her socks when, like, I was in middle school, so she would have been in, like, college, and she just got so fed up with me.
That's really funny. I would have been so thrilled though if you got your helix pierced last year, because then you'd be turning to me. You'd be all bedangled up.
See, I'm thinking about it. I just haven't done it yet. I just have to find the time to go. Because I will not pull an Emily and do it myself.
Oh, hell no. I fully tell everybody, I'm like, I did pierce myself. Don't do it. Do not recommend. The last time I did it literally was like, I actually was looking at my camera roll like a year ago from right about now, like within these last couple months, a year ago. And it was so jarring for me as an adult human being, because the last time I would have pierced myself, I was closer to being a teenager, I feel. Maybe not, but younger. And I feel like I'm just too close to 30 now because I pierced myself and then immediately went white like a ghost and like still had the needle in my ear and like was like laying on the ground, fading in and out of consciousness because I think I made my blood sugar crash or something. And then I like recovered and I was like, okay, Emily's never doing that again. Emily's had her moments of being reckless and she is done.
We're done.
You're done.
You're literally done.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. Well, should we spin for our next question?
Hell yeah. Number 4.
Did you ever do any weird behaviors as a kid that your parents found concerning?
Oh, yeah.
Same.
What is it? When I was like, I think 1 or 2, I used to, so I actually, when I learned to walk, I didn't walk with my full foot. I only walked with my tippy toes. And I also would spin a lot. And my parents were like, clearly, she's got brain damage.
She's broken.
Yeah, from something. We're not sure. But what it was, I guess, is just that was just how I learned, I guess. And so they had to retrain me to walk. And the spinning thing, they were like, she'll grow out of it eventually. She just thinks it's fun and exciting. And I probably, yeah. I remember at one point I realized...
You still spin?
No! If I span today, I would vomit everywhere. Are you kidding me? But I did have the moment when I was growing up where I compared the feeling of spinning when I was like a little kid to the same feeling as like when you're at like an amusement park on like roller coasters and stuff. I think it's just like the excitement of like being a little bit dizzy but not sick. But nowadays I can't even look at some roller coasters without feeling nauseous. It's not happening.
That's fair.
Right?
See, my parents were very concerned about the way that I write, and they really tried to train like the way that my hand holds a pen or a pencil. Is just wrong, like not correct, and they really tried to train that out of me. And
you have very nice writing though, all things considering.
I'm a very stubborn person, and I would write the way they wanted me to when they were looking, and then as soon as they looked away I would immediately switch back to the way I wanted to do it.
I genuinely, just for our listeners, what Jen means is that she kind of holds her pencil like she's gonna stab somebody, like full fist. And I've tried writing like you a couple times, and it gives me like a super intense pinky cramp. I don't know how you do it.
I literally can write pages and pages of an essay.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
Pencil like that.
It's unheard of. I don't get it. Yeah, that's always been one thing about you, that where I just kind of forget sometimes. And then I like try, and I'm like, ow.
It hurt.
Jenny, how? How are you like this?
I don't know.
Or like, I did see a video, actually. I think I sent it to you on TikTok. It would have been like a while ago, but it was somebody being like, the psychology behind how people hold their writing tools and what it means for them. Because I guess some people will like, be like, apply more pressure to like their middle finger or like their ring finger or something, right? And I was like, oh, I would love to send Jenny into a psychologist to have them look at how she writes. And then tell me what it means for her.
Oh my god.
Bring me joy. Oh, and I did get sent to a speech therapist when I was a little kid.
And your mom had your hearing checked like 9 times.
Oh, more than that. Like, for sure, almost 20 times. I'm just very selective, I guess. Oh, and then when
That
it came
checks
to
out.
like, oh yeah, so that was the thing with the speech thing. So I was really good at reading, but then if I didn't understand a word that I was reading or like a word that somebody was trying to teach me in person, I would just make up my own word. So I fully was speaking gibberish at one point, or like my own language. And my parents were like, our inhuman child needs help. So I had to go to a speech therapist for like 2 years. So that was cute. I almost
They're like,
put that
"She's
as
on
one
her
of my
own
two
path."
truths and a lie. I almost put that in.
Ah, damn.
Right?
Although I probably would have known that was true because I feel like you were constantly getting sent to like specialists because your parents were like, there must be something wrong with her, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right? And they're like, wrong.
She's normal? Are you sure?
Are we... I think we need to check again.
Are we positive?
Yeah, like how sure are we? Oh, okay, pretty sure. Oh, okay. Well, I'll see you in 6 months.
We'll be back.
Yeah, basically. So that's cute and fun. Oh man. But yeah, if there's ever a study that comes out on your handwriting, trust that I'll be the first to know.
Amazing. Okay, let's spin for our next question.
Amazing.
Were there any questionable figures in your life growing up? Like, did your parents ever have like a friend or like a relative that they would bring around your house that you were always like off put by as a child?
Oh, absolutely. But I feel like as a kid, you can kind of almost tell when people are just like a little too weird. But
Yeah.
for me, it was mostly just like family members that I wasn't really super close to, like the occasional relative where it's like, oh, like you're related, but you haven't seen each other since you were like born, and I was like 6, and I'm like, okay, who's this bitch who says she knows me? Like,
You don't know me.
yeah, like who are you? Or because I can definitely think of a couple of relatives growing up where I was like, you gotta give me the heebie-jeebies. But as far as like people I don't know, not really a ton. My brother who has autism, he used to have a couple of aides like come and work with him during the day, and there was a couple of them that were like a little bit weird, but they were also women. So like as a woman or like a girl, I was like, oh well, as weird as they are, like at least we're both girls. They can't be that weird.
That's fair.
Right?
Honestly, I don't know that I specifically had that growing up with like my parents' friends or family, but I definitely got that vibe from like my friends' parents or like family members.
Absolutely. Like if we're talking like when you go over to birthday parties or like play dates or sleepovers at other people's houses, 100% there was a couple of people where I'm like, that person's weird.
There's something off about you and I do not like it.
Yeah. Even today there's some people where like I can think growing up like thinking that their sibling or whoever was weird, and then if you happen to see them nowadays like on social media somewhere, I'm like, oh, you're still weird.
Ooh, I was right.
Ooh, I kind of clocked you, didn't I? I'm kind of
really
I'm like a
did.
whiz
And I
or
was like
something. Yeah, I was like 10 and I knew you were weird. Weird!
How does that make you feel, Josh?
Basically. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Or like people at school sometimes too. Like there were always like teachers maybe that kind of were like, were a little bit weird. Not like, I can't think off the top of my head like creepy weird. But just kind of like weird energy. Like, remember our grade 7 social teacher that used to sit in the back of the class, chug a 2-liter Pepsi, and then watch documentaries about beavers every day?
Yes.
Like, that was a weird guy.
Yeah, it was a weird guy. I mean, he allegedly had a sex tape with another weird teacher who just ate Kraft dinner and went to Korea for a year.
That's true. That's true. I remember this story because they said it was ketchup flavored Kraft dinner or something, and I was like, does it get more Canadian than that? Probably not.
But also, like, okay, at the time I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure because I was like a dumb white uncultured child. I was like, yeah, it makes sense that the food is weird in a different country. I probably wouldn't like that. But now as an adult, I'm like, if I went to Korea today, the last thing I would want is Kraft dinner.
Oh, absolutely
I'm sorry,
not.
But their food looks fucking amazing. Like I've saved so many restaurants in Seoul
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like, I would eat there right fucking now if you gave me the opportunity.
Well, and that's the thing. I feel like with food from other cultures, like even if like say you're trying it in your own country where it's just, a restaurant that's opened up here, or you're traveling and you're trying different restaurants, I feel like if you just try it once and you decide you don't like it, that's not fair. Like you need to
No.
figure out what it is specifically about that dining experience you had that you didn't like. If it's a certain spice, a certain flavor, the texture of what you ate, and then be okay with trying something else.
Especially since from like different cultures, there's so many different dishes that you could have within that culture.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
being like, oh, I don't like Thai food when you've only had like one Thai dish is so
But
ignorant.
I feel like a pit that some people get stuck in is that they travel and then they try to eat what they would at home. And then they get upset when they say like go to, for example, like we just said, Seoul, Korea, and they order mac and cheese at a restaurant and then it's not the mac and cheese that they were expecting. It's like you can't be upset with that because that's not that culture's food. Obviously it's going to be different.
Exactly. Like even like Italian food in Japan is
Mm-hmm.
very different than Italian food in Italy or Italian food in Canada or,
Absolutely. So, either way, yeah. But that would be somebody who, just off the top of my head, yeah, weird guy, but for reason, apparently. A good reason.
apparently. Okay, let's spin for our last question.
Hell yeah, brother. Ooh. I've been apparently channeling Hulk Hogan recently. I've been calling everybody brother. I don't know how this happened. But number one, please.
Number one, brother.
Yeah. Question number one, brother.
Did you ever get in big trouble as a kid?
Oh, literally all the time. But also, I was going to say, but my version of big trouble is probably different than like the normal person's because I was in a very strict Catholic household.
But like when I say that, I mean like at school, like to the principal's office or like with the police or something.
Honestly, I'm going to be so straightforward with you, Jen. The first time I ever got in quote unquote trouble and pulled into an office for anything was when we were in grade 7 and that one girl made the other girl drink toilet water and I was dropping a deuce in the bathroom at the same time and she said I was in there making her drink toilet water. And then I had to literally be like, if I'm going to be honest, I was actually reading a book on the toilet and had nothing to do with this. So
I remember you getting in trouble for that and being like, Emily's turned bad.
yeah,
Bad
well,
to the bone.
it was so weird for me because like when I think about the kind of person I was in middle school, obviously you remember because we were there together, but like I barely spoke to anybody. I just read a like insane amount of books all the time and I was like kind of studious. Like I gave a shit about school a little bit and I didn't do anything else. Like, and it's so weird for me that it like got to the point where they were like, clearly she's a bad egg, we gotta pull her in, and I had to be like, I was sitting on the toilet reading a book and I don't know why she said I was there because I was there, but like I was just in the stall right beside them. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, I remember I never really got into that much trouble. There was only really one time in middle school where I got into big trouble, and it's because a girl who I was friends with decided she did not like me anymore, and she had a tendency to go to our guidance counselors and make up stories.
Ooh, yeah, I remember this because I got pulled into one of those too.
And it got to a point where, like, I just avoided her at all costs because if you literally even looked at her the wrong way, she would be running to the guidance counselor, like, making something up. And I would get so heated because I was like, she's just lying. Like, she's just lying. And they didn't believe me.
Mm-hmm.
They believed her because she would go and she was crying and whatever. And it, like, made me so fucking angry.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember I came in there one time, and this was so bad, dude. I
can't
like
wait.
looked at her the wrong way, and I had heard from a friend of a friend that she went to the guidance counselor and was saying that I called her a bitch or literally something. It was stupid. It was middle school. And I, like, in my head was like, I wanted to call her a bitch, but I never did because that would be dumb. And I remember getting called into the guidance counselor's office, and I was like so steaming mad. I like charged in there, and I was like, I did not call you a bitch. And I started like yelling, and the guidance counselor was like, whoa. Everyone
Honestly, though,
down.
if I'm going to be so real with you, dude, that's not that bad. I feel like teenage girls specifically, now that, like, because I have 2 younger sisters, right? And, like, 3 younger brothers. So, like, for some, like, I get the intel of through every stage of life of what people are going through. Teenage girls specifically preteens, are like a whole other level of nuts.
Of demonic.
Yeah, and it's like, it's definitely a mixture of hormones. It's a mixture of it being a weird transitional period, and nobody's, like, comfortable with each other. But it really made me reflect on my own school experience, because it is very weird for me how adults get mixed into the drama of, like, preteen girls, and some of them kind of get off on it. And I'm like...
This guidance counselor for sure did, and he absolutely. Like, never even heard me out. He just, like, took her word as gospel, and it, like, I feel like it wasn't until that moment that he could see how, like, physically angry and, like, mad I was about the situation. Because I feel like but I also at the same time feel like that made it so much worse for me, because then he was like, oh, well, she's obviously really aggressive and, like, comes in here yelling and blah blah blah, and like it didn't help my case at all. And then that situation specifically escalated so fucking much, because this girl, who shall not be named because we're on good terms and I never want to open that shit up again. But she at the end of that year ended up having some nude pictures, and they got sent around, and she tried blaming it on me.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And I never even had the pictures. I never had them, never sent them, never did anything with them. But I remember the police got called, and everyone, like, in our grade had to, like, show their phones and stuff, and, like, obviously I was fine because I didn't fucking do anything.
No, I remember this, and you want to know why I remember this? Because they asked me about it, and they were like, oh, can you show us your phone? And I'm like, I don't have one. I literally do not even possess a phone to be sending these pictures. And they were like, oh, weird, because I was one of the people named. And but I was also, at this point, such a fringe person to who you're talking about that, like, it was bizarre for me that they didn't even know that I didn't have a phone, and I was like, I don't even know what to say to that, if I'm going to be honest. But it really helped my innocence. It really helped clear me of guilt.
Well,
or suspicion.
This girl was like, oh yeah, Jenn was sending these pictures on the bus, and I was like, I was so fucking blindsided, because I'm like, I didn't even look at you. I didn't talk to you. I have been avoiding you. And I'm like, you're obsessed with me.
No, but I will say, by the way, just because
I'm still mad about this.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. With middle school drama and the fact that you and I were in middle school together, we could literally talk about this forever, because some of this stuff is batshit crazy. But I will say, as a cap on this, just because I know this now, thanks to my siblings kind of growing up, going to the same schools that you and I did, that counselor is known to have a preference for blondes.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it? Just saying. Suddenly things make sense. Just saying. Suddenly things make sense, don't they?
Barf.
Anyways, that was my. That's the little demon I keep in my chest. He just tried to escape, but he's back now. We're good.
Okay. Well, do you know what my story is about? After our 4 million tangents.
Oh my god. Some bitch from middle school's in jail now, and you're gonna. And the caveat is, when you tell me this story, I'm gonna think you're lying, but it's actually the truth.
No.
Oh, okay. Because that would be juicy if you had a true crime story from our own life.
Oh, I have a couple on my list from recent people in our vicinity that I've debated telling, but I don't want to get stabbed, actually. So I feel like I shouldn't tell them on
That's
the
fair.
podcast.
That's fair. That's fair. You know what? I'll give you that one.
No, this is funny because we were literally talking about the name Flora last week, and I had already prepared these notes.
Oh.
And today we're going to talk about Mary Flora Bell.
That is a very floral name.
It is a very floral name. She was born on May 26, 1957 in Corbridge, Northumberland, England, to William and Elizabeth Bell. So Elizabeth, aka Betty, she went by Betty, was a well-known local prostitute who
Hell yeah.
was often absent from the family home, frequently traveling to Glasgow for work, leaving her children in the care of their father, who was also absent most of the time.
Right.
So not the best person to leave them with, because he wasn't fucking there.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
So, yeah. Mary was Betty's second child and born when Betty was only 17 years old. The identity of Mary's biological father is debated. For most of her life, it was believed to be William, aka Billy, who was a violent alcoholic and a habitual criminal with an arrest record for crimes including armed robbery. However, when she was a baby, when William married her mother, and it is unknown if he is her actual biological father, Mary was an unwanted and neglected child. According to her aunt, Isa McCricket, within minutes of Mary's birth, her mother had resented hospital staff attempting to place her daughter in her arms, shouting, "Take that thing away from me."
Well, that's not a great start.
No, we're off to a terrible start.
Yeah, it's not good.
So as a baby, toddler, and young child, Mary frequently suffered injuries in household accidents while alone with her mother, which led their family to believe that either her mother was deliberately negligent or intentionally attempting to harm or kill her daughter. On one occasion in about 1960, Betty dropped her daughter from a first-floor window. On another occasion, she gave Mary multiple sleeping pills. She is also known to have once sold Mary through an adoption agency to a mentally unstable woman who was not able to have children of her own, resulting in her older sister Catherine having to travel across Newcastle to reclaim Mary from this individual and return the child to her mother's home on White House Road. I mean, can you be more unwanted than your mother literally selling you to some rando?
Yeah, being like, I want you literally anywhere else than inside my own home. That's like, I get the whole, like, not having a parental instinct thing, but this is, like, next level.
It truly is. So despite her negligence and abuse of her daughter, Betty refused repeated offers from her family to take custody of Mary, with whom she, as a dominatrix, is alleged to have begun allowing and or encouraging several of her clients to sexually abuse in sessions by the mid-1960s. Mary's mother actively participated in several of these sessions, including several in which she blindfolded her daughter with a stocking before restraining her hands behind her back and forcing her to perform oral sex on her clients. Both at home and at school, Mary exhibited numerous signs of disturbed and unpredictable behavior, including sudden mood swings and chronic bedwetting, which kind of checks out for the level of abuse that she's enduring.
Yeah. Yeah, that's horrific. And I'm kind of surprised that those are the only symptoms that they even report. I feel like there would be so much more than that.
Well,
maybe
well,
not.
there is.
I don't know. Oh, well, okay, never mind.
So she is known to have frequently fought with other children, both boys and girls, and to have attempted to strangle or suffocate her classmates or playmates on several occasions. On one occasion, she is known to have attempted to block the trachea of a young girl with sand. This violent behavior made many children reluctant to socialize with Mary, And in early 1967, Mary became friends with the 13-year-old daughter of their next-door neighbor, and that girl was named Norma Joyce Bell. And although the girls shared the same last name, they were not related at all. So by 1968, Mary's classmates at Delaval Road Junior School, had become accustomed to the sudden changes in Mary's behavior. They knew that when she began exhibiting distrustful mannerisms, including shaking her head and forming a steely gaze, she was about to become violent, with the focus of her stare being on the individual she would attack.
That's a little freaky.
That would be so scary as a kid in school.
It feels like watching a bull get ready to charge you. Having another kid stare you down and shake their head at you, and you know you're about
terrifying.
to get swung at. That is so scary.
On Saturday, May 11th, 1968, a 3-year-old boy was playing with Mary and Norma on top of an old, no longer in use, air raid shelter. The girls pushed him and he fell 7 feet from the roof to the ground, and it inflicted a severe laceration to his head. He was unsure which one of the girls had actually pushed him, and that same evening the parents of the 3 small girls, contacted police to complain that both Mary and Norma had attempted to strangle their children as they played in a sandpit. That evening, both the girls were interviewed about these incidences. Both girls denied any culpability for their air raid shelter incident, claiming that they had simply discovered the boy bleeding heavily from a head wound after he had fallen. Further questioned about the attempted strangulation of the 3 young girls, Mary denied any knowledge of the incident. However, Norma admitted Mary had tried to throttle each of the girls, stating, Mary went to one of the girls and said, "What happens if you choke someone? Do they die?" Then Mary put both hands around the girl's throat and squeezed. The girl started to go purple. Norma told Mary to stop, but she wouldn't. Then she put her hand around one of the girls' throats, and she started going purple as well. Another girl, Susan, came up, and Mary did the same thing to her. Police notified the local authority of the incident and Mary's violent nature, but due to their age, both girls were simply given a warning and no further action was taken. I mean, I get that this is the 60s, but
that
feel like
huge red flag.
When a kid's doing that, you know something is very wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I can't even, think back to that time period in my own life, having the knowledge or the interest in choking out another human being. It literally never crossed my mind.
Me either. So just a little history lesson about the area. So in the 1960s, Newcastle experienced a significant urban renewal project. Many inner boroughs of the city saw Victorian-era slums demolished to make way for construction of modern houses and flats. However, several families resided in the buildings marked for demolition as they awaited rehousing by the council. Local kids frequently played in or close to the decrepit houses and construction zones. One of these locations was a large expanse of waste ground located close to a railway line known to the local children as Tin Lizzie. The street which ran parallel to this expanse of waste ground was St. Margaret's Road. So, all the local kids are playing at Tin Lizzie, but they shouldn't be. On May 25th, 1968, the day before her 11th birthday, Mary strangled 4-year-old Martin Brown in the upstairs bedroom of one of these houses on 85 Street, Margaret's Road. Mary is believed to have committed this crime alone. Martin's body was discovered around 3:30 p.m. that day by 3 kids. Martin was lying on his back with his arms stretched above his head. Aside from the specks of blood and foam around his mouth, no signs of violence were visible upon his body. A local workman named John Hall soon arrived at the scene, and he attempted to perform CPR to no avail. As John attempted CPR, Mary and Norma appeared at the doorway to the bedroom. Both were quickly shooed out of the house, and then they went to knock on the door of Martin's aunt, Rita Finley, and informed her, one of your sister's kids has just had an accident. We think it's Martin, but we can't tell because there's blood all over him.
No.
That's diabolical.
That's evil! I can't even believe that!
Like, the goal. The goal.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine that. That is, yeah, diabolical is right. Holy shit.
So the following day, Bernard Knight conducted a post-mortem on Martin's body. Bernard was unable to find any signs of violence on his body and thus was unable to determine the cause of death, although he was able to discount the investigators' theory that Martin had died of poisoning through ingesting tablets. That day, which happened to be Mary's birthday, she and Norma broke into and vandalized a nursery nearby Woodland Crescent. The two entered the premises by peeling tiles off the slate roof. They tore books, upturned desks, and smeared ink and poster paints about the property before escaping. The following day, staff discovered the break-in and vandalism and immediately notified police, who also discovered 4 separate notes that claimed responsibility for Martin's murder. One of these notes said, "I murder so that I may come back." Another read, "We did murder Martin Brown, fuck off, you bastard." The third note said, "Fuck off, we murder, watch out Fanny," and bleep. Bleep is what I'm going to be using in place of a slur that I have no interest in repeating.
Fair enough.
The final note was the most complex, reading, "You are mice. Why? Because we murdered Martin. Go Brown. You beat. Look out there. Our murders about by Fanny and Ald. Bleep. You screws." Which is actually gibberish.
So this is evil flavored with a touch of crazy.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So the police ended up dismissing this incident as tasteless and a childish prank. They didn't think it actually had any connection to his murder.
I mean, I kind of get it, but I also feel like it's something worth at least keeping an eye on or looking into. I don't know. That's weird. Because it is bizarre enough where you're kind of like, it's almost veering into the territory of, oh, this feels like a sick prank. Almost. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
I feel like maybe they should have looked into it a little harder. You know?
Oh, for sure. I feel like just dismissing something because you think it's a prank is, like, very short-sighted, especially in the case of a murder. Like, this has the feeling of, had they bothered to look a little deeper, they'd see some, like, warning signs.
Yeah. So, on May 29th, this is also diabolical. So, on May 29th, shortly before Martin's funeral, in a game of chicken, both girls called his mother June's house and asked to speak with Martin. When June replied that they could not see her son because he was deceased, Mary replied, "Oh, I know he's dead. I want to see him in his coffin."
That's what I said! Evil! Oh my god!
Like, that's not a child, that's a demon.
Yeah, and I get it too, like, because I feel like we've gone over this when you talk about, like, child murderers. There's always that, like, layer of undeveloped empathy a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this just screams no empathy. Like, I feel like even kids at that point have, like, some semblance of, that would feel horrific if somebody did it to me. This just feels, this is so purposeful in, like, the, like, nastiness of it. And it's like, what did this woman ever do to you?
Literally. So, on the afternoon of July 31st, 1968, a 3-year-old named Brian Howe was last seen by his parents in the street outside of his house playing with one of his siblings, the family dog, Mary and Norma. When he did not return home later that afternoon, concerned relatives and neighbors searched the streets without success. At 11:10 p.m., a search party discovered Brian's body between two large concrete blocks upon the Tin Lizzie. So, the policeman to arrive at the scene observed that a deliberate but feeble attempt had been made to conceal the body, which was covered in clumps of grass and weeds. Cyanosis was evident on Brian's lips, and he had several bruises and scratches on his neck. A pair of broken scissors laid close to his feet. The coroner concluded that Brian died of strangulation and that he had been deceased for up to 7.5 hours before the discovery of his body. The killer had squeezed Brian's nostrils closed with one hand while gripping his throat with the other. Numerous puncture wounds had been inflicted on Brian's legs before death. Sections of his hair had been cut from his head. His genitals had been partially mutilated, and a crude attempt had been made to carve the initial M into his stomach.
Aww.
The relatively small amount of force used to murder him led the coroner to conclude the killer was a child. Numerous gray and maroon fibers were discovered on his clothing and shoes, and these fibers did not source from any clothing within Brian's household, and could have been transferred to him by his killer. The discovery of Brian's body sparked a large-scale manhunt. Over 100 detectives from across Northumberland were assigned to the investigation, with more than 1,200 children being questioned with regards to their whereabouts. A witness informed investigators that Mary and Norma had been seen playing with Brian shortly before he was found dead. On August 1st, Mary and Norma had their initial interview with detectives. Norma seemed excitable, whereas Mary seemed more observant and reserved. Both girls were evasive and contradictory in their initial statements. However, they both freely admitted to having played with Brian that day, but denied having seen him after lunchtime. Upon further questioning the next day, Mary stated she remembered seeing an 8-year-old boy playing with Brian in the afternoon on the day of his death. Mary also claimed to have seen Brian hitting that mystery child. She stated the 8-year-old boy had been covered in grass and weeds as if he had been rolling in a field, and that he had in his possession a small pair of scissors. Mary then said, "I saw him trying to cut a cat's tail off with the scissors, but there was something wrong with them. One leg was broken or bent." This statement convinced Chief Inspector James Dobson that Mary was the actual killer, as only the police knew about the broken scissors found at the crime scene. It hadn't been mentioned at all. And in addition, the local boy that she named was questioned and was discovered to have been at the Newcastle International Airport with his parents that afternoon. And there was numerous witnesses available to corroborate that.
Right.
On August 4th, Norma's parents contacted police, stating their daughter wished to confess what she knew about Brian's death. Norma informed Chief Inspector James Dobson Mary had taken her to a special spot on the Tin Lizzie, at which point she had been shown Brian's body. Mary had then demonstrated to her how she had strangled the child, and according to Norma, Mary had confessed to her that she enjoyed strangling Brian. Before describing how she inflicted the marks on his stomach with a razor blade and the broken scissors, Norma led police to the crime scene and revealed the location where the razor blade was hidden. A drawing Norma made of the wounds inflicted to the boy's abdomen precisely matched those described by the coroner. The next day, Mary was visited at home by detectives, where she was notably defensive when confronted with the discrepancies in her previous statement, informing detectives, you're trying to brainwash me. I will get a solicitor to get me out of this." Which is a fucking weird thing for an 11-year-old to say.
That, yeah, is a super weird thing for an 11-year-old to say.
Like, I can't even believe that. I could have never even thought of that at 11.
Because a solicitor is basically like a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine talking to an 11-year-old and they're like, I'm gonna get my lawyer? You'd be like,
you have a lawyer?
Yeah. Who? Who's your lawyer?
So later that same day, Norma was questioned again, and on this occasion, she made a full statement in which she admitted to being present when Mary had actually strangled Brian. According to Norma, when the trio were alone on the Tin Lizzie, Mary seemed to go all funny, pushing the child into the grass and attempting to strangle him before stating to her, "My hands are getting thick. Take over." She then ran from the scene, leaving Mary alone with Brian. A forensic examination of clothing owned by both girls revealed the gray fibers on his body were a precise match to a wool dress owned by Mary, and the maroon fibers found on Brian's shoes were a precise match to a skirt owned by Norma. So, nail in the coffin there.
Yeah. So then was she, like, kind of downplaying her role in this murder?
That is questionable. We'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
So, Brian was buried at a local cemetery on August 7th, 1968, in a ceremony attended by over 200 people. According to detectives, Mary stood outside of Brian's house as his coffin was brought from their home at the beginning of the funeral procession. Chief Inspector James Dobson later stated, "She stood there, laughing, and rubbing her hands. I thought, my God, I've got to bring her in. She'll do another one." Both girls were formally charged with murder of Brian at 8 p.m. that evening, and in response to this, Mary replied, "That's all right by me." Norma burst into tears, simply proclaiming, I'll pay you back for this." Which... that's scary.
Hang on. So Norma said to Mary, "I'll pay you back for this?"
Yes.
Huh.
Right?
"I'll pay you back for this."
So Mary ended up writing a statement in which she admitted to being present when Brian was murdered, but insisting the murder had actually been committed by Norma. She also admitted that she and Norma had broken into the Woodland Crescent nursery the day after the killing of Martin, defacing the property before the two had written the 4 handwritten notes. Shortly after their arrest, both girls underwent psychological evaluations. The result of these tests revealed Norma was intellectually delayed and a submissive character who was easily displayed emotion, whereas Mary was a bright yet cunning character prone to sudden mood swings. Occasionally, Mary was willing to talk, though she rapidly became quiet, introspective, and defensive in nature. The 4 psychiatrists who examined Mary concluded that she suffered from a sociopathic personality disorder, and in his official report compiled for the Director of Public Prosecutions, David Westbury concluded Mary's social techniques are primitive and take the form of automatic denial, interrogation, manipulation, complaining, bullying, flight, or violence. Mary and Norma's trial for the murders of Martin and Brian began on December 5th, 1968. Both girls pled not guilty to the charges. Against protests from both girls' defense counsels, on the first day of trial, the judge waived the defendants' right to anonymity on account of their age. Which doesn't make sense to me, because they're both, 11 and 13 at this point.
Maybe the judge was like, if they're double digits? I don't know. I don't even understand how you rationalize that. They're still children, but whatever, I guess.
And as such, the media were allowed to publicize the names, ages, and photographs of both girls. The prosecutor in his opening statement said that despite the defendant's age difference, Mary was the more dominant of the two. He contended both girls had acted in unison and were equally culpable, killing both children solely for the pleasure and excitement of murder, adding both girls well knew what they did was wrong and what the result would be. The trial lasted 9 days, and on December 17th, the jury retired to consider their verdict and deliberated for 3 hours and 25 minutes before reaching their verdicts. Mary was cleared of murder, but convicted of manslaughter of both boys on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Norma was acquitted of all charges. Upon hearing the jury's verdicts, Norma clapped her hands in excitement, whereas Mary burst into tears as her mother and grandmother also wept. While giving his sentence, the judge described Mary as a dangerous individual, adding that she posed a very grave risk to other children and that steps must be taken to protect the public from her. She was sentenced to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure, effectively an indefinite sentence of imprisonment. At the time of Mary's manslaughter convictions, she was 11 and a half years old, making her Britain's youngest female killer, a statistic which still remains present to this day.
Huh.
Yeah. So Mary was...
Weird.
Right? Mary was initially detained in Durham Remand Home before being transferred to a second remand home in South Norwood. She was then transferred to Red Bank Secure Unit, a young offenders institution in Newton Lee Willows, Maryside, in early 1969, where she was the only female among approximately 24 inmates. Mary later claimed that she was sexually abused by a member of staff and several inmates while she was incarcerated at this facility, claiming the sexual abuse began when she was 13. Which, honestly is not that hard to believe.
Yeah. Especially if you have an underaged girl in prison, like...
With a bunch of boys and men.
Yeah, like... Ugh. I don't like it.
So in November 1973, at age 16, she was transferred to a secure wing of HM Prison Stall in Cheshire. Reportedly, Mary resented her transfer to this facility, and while incarcerated there, she unsuccessfully applied for parole. In June 1976, Mary was transferred to Moore Court Open Prison, where she undertook a secretary course. 15 months later, in September 1977, Mary again made national headlines when she and another inmate, Annette Priest, absconded from this open prison, and Mary and Annette spent several days in the company of two young men in Blackpool, visiting the amusements and sleeping in various local hotels, where Mary used the alias Mary Robinson. Not very unique. Maybe pick a different first name, girl. But whatever.
Maybe. Yeah.
So before she too parted company, Mary was arrested at the Derbyshire home of one of the men, Clive Shirtcliffe, on September 13, having by this stage dyed her hair blonde in an effort to disguise her identity. She was returned to custody that evening. Annette was arrested in Leeds days later. Mary's penalty for this was a loss of prison privileges for 28 days. In June 1979, Mary was transferred to HM Prison Askham Grange, an open category prison, in efforts to prepare her for her eventual release into society, which was planned for the following year. Beginning in November 1979, Mary worked first as a secretary, then as a waitress in a cafe in York Minster under supervision guidelines. Mary was released in May 1980 at the age of 23, having served almost 11 and a half years in custody. She was granted anonymity, including a new name, allowing her to start a new life elsewhere in the country under an assumed identity. Upon her release, a spokesman is quoted as saying, "Mary wishes to be given a chance to live a normal life and to be left alone." 4 years after her release from custody, on May 25th, 1984, Mary gave birth to her only child. Her daughter knew nothing of her mother's past until 1998, when reporters discovered Mary's then current location in a resort town in Sussex Coast, where they had both been living for approximately 18 months. The media attention forced Mary and her then 14-year-old daughter to leave their home and be driven to a safe house by undercover officers. Both mother and daughter later relocated to another part of the UK, and Mary's current whereabouts are unknown and remain protected by the 2003 High Court order. In 1998, Mary collaborated with author Gitta Serenity to provide an account of her life before and after her crimes. For Gitta's 1998 book, Cries Unheard, The Story of Mary Bell. Within this book, Mary details the abuse she allegedly suffered as a child at the hands of her mother and several of her mother's clients. And according to Gitta, Mary does not claim that she wrongly that she was wrongly convicted and freely admits the abuse she suffered as a child does not excuse her crimes.
Huh.
I kind of, like, what she did is horrific, but I do feel like...
The punishment did not fit the crime?
No, like...
Yeah.
It's... I don't know. It's always so complicated with crimes committed by young people because they're so underdeveloped, and it usually is something like so traumatic.
Yeah, and here's my thing, just from stories you've told. The rationalizations a child murderer has for their actions are so different than an adult's.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times it's that they genuinely do not fully understand the ramifications of their actions.
Yeah.
So then to go and treat an 11-year-old murderer like they are an adult and to punish them the way that you would punish an adult, you're not actually,
doing anything?
Yeah, it's not giving the same effect that it would an adult, because an adult already has life experience, and the act of being in jail and serving a penance is meant to have them reflect on their actions. A 11-year-old is not going to have the same sort of, it's so different.
And I feel like they just set her up to suffer more abuse.
Oh, absolutely. They set her up to suffer more abuse. They set her up to potentially become worse from the experience instead of having actually, and it's not to say that she doesn't have mental illness or something additional on top of her actions, because I literally don't know that. But to not even provide the opportunity of being like, okay, so clearly this child is acting this way due to certain factors in their life, whether it be mental illness or something else. Should that be corrected? And that sort of thing,
it's just
I don't know, like removing them from the situation, because I still feel like if you are obviously a child that's killing other children, that is a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
But putting them in an adult prison is definitely not the answer.
No, obviously Mary needed to be removed from the situation, because I agree with the judge. I feel like she would have done it again,
Yeah.
They had to do something, but also I feel like they didn't actually work at getting to the root of her psychological problems. The fact that her classmates and her friends and everyone was like, oh yeah, she got into a state, it's she transformed. That is clearly mental illness. I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely. And I understand too, it would be hard because at the time, I don't know what resources they had available, but it's you wouldn't want to put her with other children in some sort of juvenile detention, especially if her issue is that she's murdering other children. That's definitely not an answer. Putting her in adult prison is not an answer. Putting her back with her own family is not an answer. So then what do you have for options? You would either have to place them in some kind of mental ward, right, to be supervised and to, be, I don't want to say studied, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. It would be tough. There's no great place really for her unless they had an actual rehabilitation program where she could get proper care and evaluation, which, given the era in which this story occurred, was probably unlikely.
Yeah, just a situation with no right answers, which seem to be your favorite. You love these ones.
They're just so interesting. It's always... I like it. I like the crimes where it's a lot of gray area, where obviously this person did something really bad and horrific and in Mary's case, evil. She did a lot of evil things. But it's so hard to just be yeah, throw her in jail and throw away the key, because that's not the reality.
No, and I do agree. I appreciate the ones where you cover where it does make you think, because I think with crimes and when it comes to having the job of a judge and passing a sentence on anybody, really, not just children, there hardly is ever really a right answer, because I feel like a lot of the times it takes, like, you would have to know the person. You'd need to have an understanding of, like, why are they doing what they're doing. There's, like, a lot of, like, other things. It would have to come with, like, the confidence of, will this person do this again? Like, why are they, you know, like, and these are just things you'll never know. Like, there is no right answer.
No. I don't know if I could ever be a judge. Like, that would be such a hard job, and I feel like it'd be very easy to do it wrong.
Exactly. And yeah, I got nothing more to add on to that. Just thanks for making me depressed again. I love you.
You're welcome. And yeah, that's it for today.
Oh, man. Well, if you liked today's episode, make sure to leave us a review on wherever you're listening to our podcast. 5 stars is always appreciated, but I understand otherwise. I like to plug that in there too sometimes, just because we're human.
We know.
And we do this for free. You're welcome. We have a website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com if you want to check us out on there. We have Wheel of Crime at Patreon if you'd like to donate to the show. We have our email, which is wheelofcrime@gmail.com. And lastly, we have our social media, which is on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime if you want to check us out on there. And lastly, if you are British and you say, "Oi, governor, I got another story for you," because apparently you're also Australian, you can 100% write into the show.
Oh, Emily and her accents again. I thought we left that last week.
No. This is a forever problem, believe it or not. Speech therapy did not give me the blessing of being able to converse in accents. Probably the opposite. And if you would like to write into the show about some story of your own, and today was a reminder for you of a crime of life in your own, you can write in and tell us about it if you so please. And that is on our social media. You can access the Google form on there, I think on any of them. But I know for sure Instagram and Facebook probably.
Probably.
But
yes, that's it. That's all. And we'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.